Over the past few years, there's been a growing concern that football is becoming less exciting. In an era where we're seeing wizards like Messi, Hazard, and Neymar retired from football, there seems to be fewer exciting risk-takers and thrilling dribblers in today's world. This sentiment has been echoed from the streets, stands, and dugout. But in today's video, we'll take a look at 10 of the most exciting and thrilling dribblers out there in the world. Not long ago, the legendary Argentine coach Marcelo Bielsa complained that football is declining, with it becoming less and less attractive. Many lay the blame at the feet of Manchester City's manager Pep Guardiola, a noted Bielsa disciple, and arguably one of the best coaches ever in the history of football. While Guardiola's positional, possession-heavy system serves as the inspiration for coaches across the globe, this style of play has been noticed to turn mercurial individuals into mindless cogs in a winning machine. A perfect example of this is Jack Grealish. The lad who could get the whole stadium on the edge of their seats while playing for Aston Villa has now turned into a pass-and-run merchant. However, it is not all doom and gloom, as there is a growing crop of exciting weavers scattered across the elite level. You just have to know where to look. In today's video, we'll be ranking them based on the following criteria. Number 1. Quantity. The number of dribbles attempted and completed is a key factor when judging the world's best. Number 2. Level. Players who can dribble around elite defenders in the toughest competitions available have been ranked higher. Number 3. Style. Beyond the cold, hard numbers, the most entertaining dribblers wriggle past their opponents with a balance of skill and speed. Number 10. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, Napoli. Fewer players get you as excited as the Georgian winger, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. While his end product might not be as high as you'd expect from him, his style of play, tricks, and ball control are excellent, to say the least. Together with the Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen, this duo lit up the Serie A, winning Napoli its first championship in a long while. 2 games into his Napoli career, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia was already being compared to the greatest player ever to don the famous blue shirt. The Georgian winger's new nickname, Kvaradona, was plastered across the front pages of Italian publications up and down the peninsula. The difficulty of pronouncing his name was a factor, but Kvaratskelia's endless bag of tricks was worthy of a nod to Diego Maradona, arguably the best dribbler of all time. Here are his stats from last season, per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 7.2. Successful take-ons, 3.4. Take-on success rate, 47%. Carries into the penalty area, 2.7. Number 9. Nico Williams, Athletic Club. When Nico Williams burst into Athletic Club's first team, the most common piece of advice that he received was simple: slow down. The extremely fast and pacey winger was a sensation for Spain at Euro 2024, attempting more take-ons than all but one player in the competition, plenty of which came in the crazy demolition of Italy's defense in the group stage. The athletic winger delivered an even better performance in the 2024 Copa del Rey final, sizing up any Mallorca player unfortunate enough to be stood in his way no fewer than 17 times that night. Williams jinxed away from the turquoise shirts to set up Oihan Sanchez's second-half equalizer as Athletic went on to win the club's first major trophy in 40 years. After refusing advances from the top clubs in Europe this summer, Athletic have continued to benefit from Williams' weaving this season. Here are his stats from last season, per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 7.5. Successful take-ons, 3.4. Take-on success rate, 45%. Carries into the penalty area, 2.6. Number 8. Savinho, Manchester City. Lately, Pep Guardiola, the apparent architect of modern football's supposed demise, is more interested in deceptive wide men than most managers. Today, football is losing the dribble, he lamented on Spanish TV in 2022. Without players who dribble, nothing can be done. City's head coach has subsequently recruited some of the best dribblers in the game, with Savinho the latest trickster to show his fleet feet since arriving at the Etihad in the summer. Girona reaped the rewards of Savinho's mercurial talent during the 2023-24 campaign, spending much of the season at the table's summit before eventually finishing in a record-breaking 3rd place. I know this is a big statement, Girona's boss Michel said last term, but I hadn't seen anyone so effective in one-on-one situations since Vinicius Jr. emerged. Here are his stats from last season, per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 7.1. Successful take-ons, 3.1. Take-on success rate, 43%. Carries into the penalty area, 2.8. Number 7. Rodrigo, Real Madrid. Just 94 seconds into his Real Madrid career, Rodrigo displayed his immense dribbling ability as he controlled Casemiro's crossfield pass with the outside of his right boot, dove in field, spun Jose Arnaiz around, and picked out the bottom corner. After a dream debut, Rodrigo shrugged. "I don't really have the words for this. I'm lucky." Based on how frequently he has put opposition defenders in a spin cycle before finding the back of the net, good fortune had little to do with it. For a player whose 10th birthday party was themed Rodrigo Real Madrid, the fleet-footed forward's career in the Spanish capital has been a long time in the making. After racking up more than 50 goals, 3 league titles, and 2 Champions Leagues, it's gone pretty well so far. Here are his stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 5.0. Successful take-ons, 2.1. Take-on success rate, 41%. Carries into the penalty area, 2.6. If you want to stay constantly up to date on anything football related, please hit the subscribe and like button. Number 6. Kylian Mbappe, Real Madrid. Kylian Mbappe has the same approach to beating a defender as he does when at the negotiating table, cold and efficient. Blessed with unrivaled acceleration, the French superstar rarely varies his dribbling technique, deliberately slowing his opponent down before bursting away in a blur of straight arms and high knees. What Mbappe may lack in skill and trickery, he more than makes up for in effectiveness. Real Madrid's latest Galactico finished as Ligue 1's top scorer in each of his final 6 seasons in France, routinely finding the net after a sharp shuffle of feet. Such a staggering level of consistency affords Mbappe a justified sense of confidence. As former PSG boss Mauricio Pochettino once reflected, he knows that when the ball reaches him, he is still going to beat his opponent. Here are his stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 5.7. Successful take-ons, 2.7. Take-on success rate, 47%. Carries into the penalty area, 2.9. Number 5. Mohamed Kudus, West Ham. Football has been a wonderful experience for Mohamed Kudus, taking him to the top levels of the Premier League out of a tough neighborhood on the outskirts of Ghana's capital, an area where he is immensely proud of and still regularly visits. But for West Ham's affable forward, football remains a game to be enjoyed. "I'm still just having fun in the playground," Kudus explained in an interview with The Guardian. At times, it looks as though the sinewy schemer is playing against children, such is the case with which he bounces off Premier League defenders. While most of his forward runs start from deeper on the pitch, Kudus managed to complete more dribbles than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues during the 2023-24 campaign. Despite a tough start to the season for West Ham, Kudus' ability to wriggle forward has not waned. Here are his stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 7.4. Successful take-ons, 4.0. Take-on success rate, 54%. Carries into the penalty area, 1.5. Number 4. Lamine Yamal, Barcelona. Spain's triumphant manager at Euro 2024, Luis de la Fuente, hailed Lamine Yamal as one of the best players touched by God's magic wand. The proud Rocafonda native was cradled by a footballing deity when chance placed a baby Yamal in the same calendar photo shoot as Lionel Messi a decade ago. Everyone associated with Barcelona is at pains to avoid direct comparisons between their teenage starlet and arguably the greatest player of all time. But the ease with which Yamal dances past opponents makes it hard not to join the dots. The Spanish sensation puts his dribbling ability down to a childhood spent reacting to the ball bouncing awkwardly off the cobbles in his neighborhood. From Yamal's style, it's easy to see that when you learn to play football in the street, it gives you more resources. It makes you more mischievous than someone trained in an academy. Here are stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 6.9. Successful take-ons, 2.9. Take-on success rate, 42%. carries into the penalty area, 2.2. Number 3. Jeremy Doku, Manchester City. Jeremy Doku's movement on a pitch is often like a drop of water on a hot pan. A bewildering combination of chops and jinks and feints that leaves defenders dizzy. Playing for a team which bosses possession as emphatically as Manchester City, the Belgian winger has more opportunities than anyone else to take on his opponent. The figures behind Doku's dribbling are staggering. Despite playing less than half of the available minutes in the 2023-24 Premier League season, City's number 11 carried the ball into the 18-yard box on 147 separate occasions, more often than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues. Only one other individual on the continent hit triple digits, and no one could come close to his average of 8 penalty entries per game. Here are stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 10.5. Successful take-ons, 5.5. Take-on success rate, 52%. Carries into the penalty area, 7.7. Number 2. Vinicius Jr., Real Madrid. Someone who couldn't forget Vinicius Jr. in a while is Yan Couto. He may still be suffering from PTSD after coming up against Vinicius Jr. in February. The highly rated Brazilian right-back was turned inside out and back to front by his grinning compatriot when Girona, La Liga's surprise leaders, traveled to the Santiago Bernabeu. Couto was dribbled past 6 times, the most of any opposition defender on record in Spain's capital, and reduced to tears by the end of a 4-0 hammering. Tellingly, Vinicius was the first to comfort the defender he had spent all night tormenting. While it was a new low for Couto, that display was just another game for Real Madrid's number 7, whose brilliance has become normalized. Here are stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 7.9. Successful take-ons, 3.2. Take-on success rate, 40%. Carries into the penalty area, 4.1. Number 1. Jamal Musiala, Bayern Munich. Everything about Jamal Musiala's game is smooth. The slippery eel of a footballer glides across the pitch as though he has the benefit of a 3-second delay, while everyone else is crashing around in real time. By constantly looking over both of his shoulders, Musiala is able to have an understanding of his surroundings before beginning his mazy runs across the length of the pitch. The Bayern Munich prodigy insists, "I don't do a lot of skills, it's more like dribbling." The distinguishing factor is that the feats of trickery which he routinely pulls off involve no unnecessary risk. Seamlessly knocking the ball between his 2 insteps to wriggle between a crowd has no risk in it, according to Musiala. It's not flashy or anything, and it's an easy skill to go by the defender. However, few players in the world make it look so simple. Here are stats from last season per 90 minutes of playing time. Take-ons attempted, 6.9. Successful take-ons, 3.9. Take-on success rate, 56%. Carries into the penalty area, 1.7. If you enjoyed this video, do share it with a friend and then check out our next video about Bayern Munich's treble-winning season.